The cameraman was still rolling when Desi Arnaz hit the floor. October 15, 1954. Stage 9 at Desilu Studios. 300 audience members watched in horror as television's biggest star collapsed mid-scene, his body convulsing on the freshly waxed floor. What happened in the next 60 seconds wasn't in any script, and what Lucy Ball did to save her husband's life would remain a secret for 30 years. It was supposed to be a routine Friday filming. Episode 97 of I Love Lucy, the show that had made Desi and Lucy the most famous couple in America. The audience had filed in at 7 p.m., excited to watch magic happen live. Everything was perfect. What nobody knew was that Desi Arnaz had been hiding something for 3 weeks. Something that would have shut down production, cost the studio millions, and possibly ended his career. To understand what happened, you need to know the pressure Desi was under in 1954. He wasn't just acting in I Love Lucy. He was running Desilu Productions, managing hundreds of employees, overseeing 3 different shows, and revolutionizing television production. While Lucy got the laughs, Desi carried the weight of an empire on his shoulders. He never stopped. Carl Freund, the show's cinematographer, would later recall. Between takes, he was on the phone with New York. During lunch, he was in budget meetings. After we wrapped, he'd be in the editing room until 3 a.m. The man was killing himself, and we all saw it. 3 weeks before the collapse, Desi had felt the first warning sign. A sharp pain in his chest during a production meeting. He grabbed the table, his knuckles white, waiting for it to pass. His assistant, Johnny Ackerman, noticed. "Boss, you okay?" Desi forced a smile. "Just heartburn. Too much Cuban coffee." But it wasn't heartburn. And over the next 3 weeks, the pains got worse. Shooting pains down his left arm. Shortness of breath climbing stairs. Dizzy spells that made him grab walls for support. 3 hours before the collapse, at 5:15 p.m., Desi had been in his office when the phone rang. It was Philip Morris, their sponsor, with an ultimatum. Either you increase production to 42 episodes a year, or we pull our sponsorship. Desi's secretary, Marcella Rabwin, was in the room. Mr. Arnaz's face went white. 42 episodes. That was almost double what we were doing. It was impossible. But Desi didn't say it was impossible. He said yes. Because saying no meant 300 people losing their jobs. It meant his empire crumbling. "I'll make it work," he told Philip Morris. When he hung up, Marcella saw him reach into his desk drawer and pull out a small bottle of pills. Heart medication he'd been secretly taking for weeks. October 15, 1954. 8:23 p.m. They were filming a scene where Ricky Ricardo had to chase Lucy around the apartment, a classic bit of physical comedy. The first take went perfectly, but Desi called for a second take. He was a perfectionist. "Action," director William Asher called. Desi burst through the apartment door, his face in mock anger. "Lucy, you got some splaining to do." The audience laughed. Lucy ran around the couch, Desi chasing her. Once around, twice around. On the third lap, something changed. Vivian Vance, who played Ethel, noticed it first. His face, she would later say. 1 second it was Ricky's comic anger. The next second, it was real pain, real terror. Desi's hand went to his chest. His feet tangled. He pitched forward, crashing into the coffee table, sending fake flowers and prop books flying. The audience laughed, thinking it was part of the show. But Lucy knew. She knew the difference between Desi's fake falls and real ones. "Stop the cameras." Lucy screamed, her voice cutting through the laughter like a knife. But the cameras kept rolling. The operators, trained to never stop during a take, continued filming. What they captured next would become the most carefully guarded footage in television history. Desi was on the ground, his body rigid, his face turning purple. He was clutching his chest, gasping for air that wouldn't come. This wasn't a heart attack. It was something worse. A massive anxiety attack triggered by exhaustion, stress, and 3 weeks of hidden heart problems, causing his throat to close and his lungs to seize. Lucy dropped to her knees beside him. The audience had gone dead silent. 300 people holding their breath, watching television's golden couple in real crisis. "He's not breathing," Lucy shouted. "Somebody call an ambulance." People scrambled. Bill Frawley, who played Fred Mertz, ran for the stage phone. Vivian Vance ushered audience members back, creating space. The crew stood frozen, unsure what to do. But Lucy Ball did something that nobody expected. Something that wasn't taught in any first aid class in 1954. Something that would later be recognized as a primitive form of what we now call rescue breathing. She tilted Desi's head back, pinched his nose, and sealed her mouth over his. She breathed into him. Once, twice, 3 times. "What the hell is she doing?" someone whispered. Lucy ignored them. She'd seen something similar done to a drowning victim at a pool party years earlier. She had no medical training, no real idea if it would work. But she knew Desi needed air, and she was going to give it to him. Breathe. Count to 3. Breathe. Count to 3. The audience watched in stunned silence. Some were crying. Others were praying. The cameras, still rolling, captured every second. On the fourth breath, Desi's body convulsed. He coughed violently, gasping, his lungs finally accepting air. His eyes flew open, wild and unfocused. Desi, Lucy cried, cradling his head. Stay with me. Look at me. Desi's eyes found hers. For a moment, the mask fell away completely. No Ricky Ricardo, no Cuban bandleader, no television executive, just a terrified man clinging to his wife's hand. Lucy, he whispered, his voice barely audible. I can't breathe. Yes, you can, Lucy said firmly. Breathe with me. In and out, in and out. She demonstrated, exaggerating her breaths. Desi followed, his breathing slowly synchronizing with hers. The color began returning to his face. The ambulance arrived 7 minutes later. As the paramedics loaded Desi onto a stretcher, something remarkable happened. The audience began to applaud. Not the usual raucous applause of a comedy show, but slow, respectful clapping. They were applauding Lucy. They were applauding love in action. William Asher, the director, made a decision that would have consequences for decades. He ordered all footage of the incident locked in the studio vault. No copies. No leaks. This wasn't entertainment. This was private pain made public. At Cedars of Lebanon Hospital, doctors confirmed what Desi had been hiding. Severe exhaustion, dangerously high blood pressure, early-stage heart disease. The stress of running an empire while performing 8 shows a month was literally killing him. Mr. Arnaz, Dr. Marcus Rabwin said bluntly, if your wife hadn't acted when she did, you might have suffocated. That anxiety attack closed your airway completely. She saved your life. Desi looked at Lucy, who hadn't left his side. Her makeup was ruined. Her hair was a mess. She looked exhausted. She looked beautiful. I know, Desi said quietly. She always has. The next morning, every newspaper in America carried the story. Desi collapses on set. Lucy saves husband's life. But none of them had the real story. None of them knew about the 3 weeks of hidden pain. None of them knew about Lucy's desperate improvisation. None of them knew about the footage locked in the vault. CBS executives arrived at the hospital that afternoon. They were concerned about the show, about contracts, about money. When can he return to work, they asked. Lucy stood up, all 5'6" of her, and faced them down. When he's ready. And not 1 second before. Mrs. Arnaz, we have obligations. Your obligations nearly killed my husband, Lucy said, her voice cold as steel. So here's what's going to happen. We're cutting the schedule in half. We're hiring more directors to share Desi's load. And we're taking a month off. Starting now. They did the right thing. For the next month, Desi rested. Really rested. For the first time in years. Lucy was there every day, forcing him to delegate, to trust others with his empire. I don't know how to stop, he confessed one night. Then I'll teach you, Lucy said. The same way I taught you to breathe again. The footage of Desi's collapse remained locked in the Desilu vault for 30 years. It was finally released in 1984 as part of a documentary about television history. By then, both Lucy and Desi were in their 70s, their marriage long since ended but their bond still evident. Watching that footage, Lucy said in the documentary, it's like reliving a nightmare. But I'm glad it exists. It shows what we don't usually see on television. Real fear, real love, real life. Desi, interviewed separately, was asked about that night. Lucy saved me, he said simply. Not just from choking. She saved me from myself. From the belief that I had to carry everything alone. That night, she breathed life back into me. And for the first time, I understood that being vulnerable didn't make me weak. It made me human. Camera operator Phil Carlson, who broke his silence in 1990, revealed. When Lucy was giving Desi mouth-to-mouth, I kept filming. Through my viewfinder, I saw something nobody else could see. Tears. Lucy was crying the whole time she was breathing into him, but her hands never shook. Her rhythm never faltered. She was falling apart and saving his life at the same time. Dr. Marcus Rabwin revealed in his 1985 memoir what the public never knew. Mr. Arnaz was clinically dead for approximately 30 seconds. His heart had stopped. What Mrs. Ball did, forcing air into his lungs, created enough pressure to restart his heart. She didn't just save him from choking. She literally brought him back from the dead. Also in the audience was a young television writer named Rod Serling. What he witnessed that night influenced one of the most famous Twilight Zone episodes. I saw Desi Arnaz die that night, Sorling wrote in his journal, and I saw Lucy Ball will him back to life. It was the most terrifying and beautiful thing I'd ever witnessed. In 1976, Lucy received a letter that made her cry. It was from Maria Santos, a mother of 3 from Detroit. Dear Ms. Ball, you don't know me, but you saved my son's life. I was in the audience that night in 1954 when Mr. Arnaz collapsed. Last month, my 5-year-old stopped breathing at a playground. But I remembered you. I tilted his head back like you did. I breathed into him like you did. And like Mr. Arnaz, my baby came back to me. Lucy kept that letter in her purse until the day she died. At his funeral in 1986, the minister read from a letter Desi had written to be opened after his death. On October 15, 1954, I learned that love can literally save your life. Lucy gave me her breath when mine failed. She gave me 32 more years of life. Every breath I took after that night was a gift from her. The footage is now required viewing in many medical schools. But for most people, it remains something simpler and more profound. Proof that behind every performance is a real person. Behind every laugh is the potential for tears. And behind every scripted kiss is the possibility of real love strong enough to defeat death itself. Because that's what Lucy and Desi gave us that night. Not entertainment, not comedy, but truth. The truth that we're all just one breath away from disaster, and one breath away from salvation.